Get this filthy farmer and his dirty cash out of my bank." The voice cut through the polished lobby like a blade. Bills fluttered across the marble floor, $100 notes scattering like fallen leaves at harvest. The old man froze, his calloused hands trembling as he watched years of backbreaking labor trampled beneath designer heels. The gold letters of the bank's logo gleamed above, a cruel crown over cruelty itself. Phones rose. Cameras clicked. An audience gathered, hungry for humiliation. But none of them knew that inside the farmer's faded jacket lay something that would turn this spectacle into a storm. Something that, within minutes, would rewrite every rule in that spotless bank. And when the clock struck 2:53, everything changed. But first, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and comment below from which city you are watching this video. For nearly 5 decades, Samuel Jefferson woke before sunrise, his hands already aching before they touched the soil. His land, 100 acres of stubborn Alabama clay, had seen droughts, floods, and seasons when the sky forgot how to rain. But Samuel never stopped working. He'd save every dollar he earned, stacking it in old coffee tins and folded envelopes, a lifetime of quiet victories earned under the weight of the southern sun. He wasn't rich by the world's standards, but that money represented freedom, a promise he'd made to his late wife that one day he'd build something lasting for their grandchildren. When the government announced a small business grant to support rural farmers, Samuel decided to move his savings into a bank account for the first time. He cleaned his boots, pressed his only flannel shirt, and drove his rusted pickup 40 miles to Riverside Bank, the largest in the county. He didn't know much about digital transfers or credit lines. But he knew honesty, and he carried it like a badge. What he didn't know was that the polished floors of Riverside weren't made for men like him. By the time he stepped through those glass doors, the scent of soil and sweat followed him like a shadow, and soon, that shadow would be all anyone saw. The bank's air was cold, too cold for the kind of warmth Samuel carried. He stood patiently at the counter, his hands clutching a canvas sack that held nearly everything he owned. The teller, a young woman with painted nails and polite discomfort, eyed the bag as if it were something alive. She asked him to wait. Minutes stretched thin. The marble clock above the counter ticked louder than it should have. Then came the echo of heels, sharp, deliberate, and full of authority. Rebecca Sterling, branch manager, descended from her glass office like a queen stepping down from her throne. Every movement was rehearsed perfection. The straight spine, the crisp suit, the confidence of someone used to being obeyed. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, her tone soft but sharp enough to slice. The teller hesitated, then nodded toward Samuel's bag. "He says he wants to deposit this." Sterling's eyes narrowed. She pulled the sack open, and her expression twisted. Bundles of cash, wrinkled, sun-bleached, some still carrying the scent of earth. Her manicured fingers froze midair, then she recoiled as though the money itself were unclean. The lobby went quiet. "This is cash for my farm, ma'am," Samuel said, his voice steady, respectful. 40 years of work. But respect was invisible in that room. All they saw was an old black man with dirty bills and calloused hands. A man out of place in a world of spotless glass and platinum cards. Sterling's lips curved into something between a smirk and a sneer. "Sir, we don't accept unverified currency without proof of origin," she said, raising her voice just enough for others to hear. "This looks suspicious." A murmur spread among the customers. Words like drug money and scam drifted through the air. Someone pulled out a phone. Another whispered that he should be arrested. Samuel tried to explain how he'd sold his last harvest, how he'd saved carefully, how every bill was accounted for. But each word he spoke seemed to make things worse. Sterling motioned to a guard, her voice dripping with false courtesy. "We'll need to test the cash. Standard procedure." The guard's hand rested on his holster. The message was clear, don't argue. Then came the moment that burned itself into every watching eye. Sterling tipped the bag, and the money spilled onto the floor, hundreds scattering like broken promises. She smiled thinly. "If it's real, sir, feel free to pick it up." The room erupted in whispers, camera flashes, quiet gasps. Samuel knelt slowly, each creak of his knees echoing in the silence. As he reached for a bill, Sterling's heel crushed it into the marble. Some watched in pity. Most watched in silence. And yet, somewhere in that crowd, a young woman lifted her phone. She started a live stream titled Riverside Bank Incident. The counter began to climb, hundreds, then thousands. Samuel gathered the last few bills, his movements patient, deliberate. And as he rose, his wallet slipped from his pocket. A small platinum card slid free, catching the light. For a second, Sterling froze. Her smirk faltered. The crowd leaned in. The bank clock read 2:51 p.m. Something was about to break. Sterling's laughter rippled through the lobby, a brittle, artificial sound that bounced off marble and glass. Cameras kept rolling. The live stream counter climbed past 5,000 viewers, comments flooding in faster than anyone could read them. Words like disgrace, racism, and humiliation scrolled across the screen. But inside that bank, Samuel only heard the silence, the kind that presses against your ribs and makes breathing feel like confession. He straightened slowly, his eyes meeting Sterling's. Behind him, the security guard tensed, one hand hovering near his belt. Sterling's voice dripped with condescension. "You should be grateful we didn't call the police, sir. This looks like money no honest man earns." Samuel didn't answer. He didn't need to. The truth was already in motion. The young woman with the live stream shifted her camera to focus on his hands, the same hands that had planted, harvested, and built everything in that worn canvas bag. She whispered into the mic, "People need to see this." The light caught that small platinum card again, the one Sterling had ignored before. But this time, she saw it clearly. Her eyes widened, recognition slicing through her arrogance. The words American Express Centurion gleamed back at her, reserved for the world's wealthiest clients. Gasps erupted. The guard's hand fell away from his holster. The teller covered her mouth. Samuel spoke quietly, almost gently. "Ma'am, that's my business account. I was just trying to open a new one here. I wanted to support a local bank." Sterling's face drained of color. The live stream zoomed in on her expression, the moment arrogance turned to panic. In the corner, the assistant manager whispered, "Oh my God." The silence this time wasn't heavy, it was suffocating. Sterling stammered something about a misunderstanding, but the damage was done. The entire country was already watching. Samuel gathered his bills with calm precision. When he looked up, his voice carried the weight of every man and woman who had ever been told they didn't belong. "Seems like I picked the wrong place to trust my money." The lobby door swung open. Two men in suits stepped in, regional executives, alerted by the viral stream. And in that frozen instant, everyone in the bank realized the reckoning had arrived. By the next morning, the video had spread across the nation. News anchors dissected every frame. Commentators argued over privilege, prejudice, and professionalism. But for Samuel Jefferson, none of it mattered. He hadn't gone viral for fame or revenge. He had simply wanted to be treated with dignity. Riverside Bank issued a statement before sunrise, calling it an isolated incident. Sterling was placed on immediate suspension, her image frozen mid-sneer across every major outlet. Yet the apology fell hollow, drowned by the echo of countless similar stories, of doors closed, voices silenced, and respect denied because of the color of someone's skin. Samuel never returned to that branch. Instead, he took his money to a small black-owned credit union 3 towns over. They welcomed him with a handshake, not suspicion. When reporters asked what message he wanted to share, he said only this: "I didn't ask for special treatment. I asked for equal ground." Weeks later, the Riverside lobby gleamed just as it always had, but something had shifted. Employees whispered his name like a warning and a reminder. The same soil-stained hands they once looked down on had forced a nation to look up. Because this story wasn't just about a bank or one man's pride. It was about the silent weight millions carry every day, walking into rooms where respect is rationed and humanity comes with a price tag. In a world that still measures worth by color, maybe the real question isn't how Samuel was treated that day, but how many others are treated the same, without anyone watching. And as the camera fades, one thought lingers. What would you have done if you had been there?